Okay, and we are on air. First F call after the GNU conference. Let's talk about that, Tom.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I guess the things that I wanted to say about it are, I think we were all pretty happy with how things turned out. That I think the conference went really well. Really great technical content, good turnout. Um, so I wanted to point out just kind of publicly. I made a bit of a statement at the conference itself, but I think one of the real sticking points that we had in the kind of the management of the content was we as GNU Radio people, developers, and close to the project, I think maybe overestimated the appeal of the working groups, or at least even the understanding of what the working groups were for. And this really came from last year when the working groups were was such a huge part of the Boston conference, and we couldn't drag people away from those discussions. So I think the that kind of put us in a mindset for to promote them as much bigger parts of the conference, and that didn't really seem to work for a majority of the audience. Like, people were sitting down and respectful and listened and everything, and that was fine. That was great. But I feel like the audience that came didn't get quite as much out of the working group sessions as we, the developers, did. So from that perspective, that's something that we're going to work on really hard for the next conference, for GRCon 15, is to figure out parallel things to do while we're having our working groups, so that the people who are heavily invested in the working groups can work on them, and the people who are interested in learning more about GNU Radio and what they can do and what it does can benefit from that. So I think that's like the biggest thing that I would, without seeing any survey responses or anything like that from the audience, or the people who came, that seemed to me to be like the biggest issue to resolve for next year. So we've already started planning for next year. We've got between John, Ben Hilburn, myself, Michael Dickens, lots of people. We've already sat down and had some good chats about how we want to about what next year is going to look like, and hopefully make it a bigger and more interesting event for everybody. But having said that, that's like the one problem that I saw. I think everything else went really well. I think the presentations, the content was fantastic. So I was really pretty happy with it. Is there anybody else who wants to make a quick comment before I go on to GRCon 15?
Do we have results from the survey yet?
Oh, we'd have to ping John Malsbury about that. He's the one that collected stuff. So yeah, I don't have those on hand if they've been collected fully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, I was really happy. I think it was a pretty big success this year. Not a whole lot to say about next year. It's just, like I said, we're going to take a lot of the lessons learned from the fact that we doubled the growth of the conference between last year's and this year's. I think that's going to play a significant role in how we design the next conference as far as content and structure. So we'll be working a lot on that. We don't have a location identified yet. I think that's going to be the first big topic, is to figure out where we want to settle next year. Likely still on the East Coast. We still have the kind of the majority of people that we interact with seem to be on the East Coast, and the Europeans, it's much easier for them to come over for an East Coast based conference. I think we would like to expand it to other areas of the country. Internationally is going to be a lot harder, but at least other areas of the U.S. I'm just not sure that next year is going to be the time to do that. I will say that of the options, I guess Virginia was mentioned, although I'm not really sure what the difference between Virginia and DC is, really. Georgia Tech has been offering a lot of support for us, so that's on the table. And I guess breaking away from our East Coast, Denver or Boulder, the people from University of Colorado Boulder were very pro at holding an event out there. So, that is an option. But like I said, I'm not really sure where we're going yet with that. Yeah, so I think that's all I have right now about GRCon 15. Yeah. So, and on the outline for today, it was just a few quick words. So I think that's probably all.
Good. Yeah, I think we all enjoyed the conference quite a lot. So, sorry, I wasn't quite paying attention because I was finding that bloody YouTube link. Finally found it. Did you already talk about the Hackfest?
No. So that's the next item to bring up. So yeah, Hackfest. There's only a few things that are kind of settled right now, and a number of other things that have been proposed. It seems like the whole concept of the Hackfest is quite popular and is growing in popularity, and people want to host them and do cool stuff with them. So that's really cool. So we'll see where that leads us. Probably not until 2015. We probably won't see anything significant start up. The things that are set are TU Delft in the Netherlands has already set up and reserved rooms and everything to host a pre-FOSDEM Hackfest. So this should be really cool. So it's the last week of January, and I'll put out much more information, detail, specifics, things like that. So we're going to hold it at the end of January at Delft. The part of the intent is that this matches up perfectly with FOSDEM, and Delft is not too far away from Brussels. So I'm envisioning us doing the week-long Hackfest in Delft, and then whoever's sticking around for FOSDEM will just basically get on a train and head to Brussels on Friday to prepare for FOSDEM. So that should be really great. That having been said, like normal, Hackfests are kind of still mostly invite only, and this is basically a space constraint issue. So even though we talk about them publicly, there is only so much room that we have at these places. So Delft only has it set up for some amount of room. So we'll see, what we can do about settling that. So just, everybody's aware of it. If you want to come, let me know. If you can come, let me know, and we'll figure out to make sure that we can get all the people that we can into it at the right time. All right, so that's Delft, and then we have FOSDEM. So FOSDEM is happening. It's like the last, I guess it's January 31st and February 1st in Brussels, as usual, at the University of Brussels, just like last year. We don't have the schedule yet, so we don't know if we're on Saturday or Sunday again.
Yeah, we do. We're on Sunday.
Oh, is it posted already?
Yeah.
Okay, I just saw the news item that it was accepted. I haven't seen.
Okay, maybe it's not on the official website. But I have inside info, so I think it's official. No, it is official. We are on Sunday, like last year. We had the FOSDEM guys actually kind of mentioned their regrets that we are the same time as the EDA community, but I think there's not too much overlap, so we should be fine.
Yeah. Really? They're concerned about us in EDA?
Yeah, I was surprised they were concerned about us at all. So, but in general, FOSDEM people seem to be pretty cool, and FOSDEM itself is pretty awesome as well. So maybe I can just chime in here. So I put out a call for participation on the mailing list last week, and So we only got the acceptance note I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I think I should probably put this out a bit sooner. But we know we're gonna participate, and we still need lots of people to do talks and stuff, just like last year. And I mean, this is a GNU Radio call, so I'm obviously gonna reach GNU Radio people, but we do want to try and reach out to all the free software SDR community, and that includes wireless security. I don't know, whatever, radio astronomy, and anyone who does free software and radio DSP related stuff. I don't think there's any other room at FOSDEM that is something similar to us, so we can probably be a bit loose in our definitions. But obviously, I'm mostly excited about SDR implementations. So one group of people I'd like to address specifically is all you grad students working in labs on some GNU Radio stuff. This is a weekend somewhere in the middle of Europe. Shouldn't be impossible to find some spare time to go there and talk about whatever you're working on right now, because there's less pressure of having to publish a paper when going there, and all the usual efforts that are usually involved with going to a conference. We want to see what people are working on. Obviously, there'll be time for discussions, and we haven't finalized anything. So last year we had some time set aside for hacking, but that didn't really pan out as I thought it would. But then we didn't have any time for general discussions. So maybe we'll just shuffle that around, make it a bit more interactive. But please put in your presentations.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of it making it more interactive. I think you're right. The Hackfest, it's just too hard to get set up, and the rooms that they have, they're like lecture halls. It's not really conducive to kind of Hackfest style, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we talked about, but I don't think we ever publicly talked about this or really officially discussed how FOSDEM went, was that we got a lot of very basic level questions, and we didn't actually have a basic level presentation on what is SDR really, and what kind of tools do we have, and all of that. So I think we'll probably make an effort to do something like that this year, and we could just show off stuff and then make that more interactive. But this is just ideas. This is nothing is definite at this point, and we'll base it very much on the kind of suggestions we get for presentations.
Yeah.
That's all I can
That's
say.
a really good point. That I think a lot of us are used to going to conferences on software radio or on wireless at least, and everybody there, we assume that everybody there knows. And yeah, I got a question after my talk. So does GNU Radio interface with hardware? And I was kind of stunned, but then I realized, well, okay, we have to understand that it's a completely different set of people coming to FOSDEM who are not, already aware of a lot of these things. So yeah, I think having an intro talk is a really good idea.
Okay, I think that's all that we have on FOSDEM right now. Save the date, 31st and 1st of February 2015, Brussels.
Yep. All right, so that takes care of, like I said, we've got Delft and FOSDEM right next to each other, so we'll be so we've kind of got the first couple months of 2015 mapped out for GNU Radio stuff. So there's definitely, like I said, there's been a few other companies and other groups that are kind of poking us or querying about how they could host a Hackfest. Should they? What can we do? When? Et cetera, et cetera. I won't say any names right now, just in case things don't pan out, or whatever. But it looks like there'll be plenty of opportunities around the country, maybe around the world, over the next year to get together and do some cool GNU Radio hacking. Obviously on the outline, Edis, because I don't mind mentioning them because they've hosted plenty of Hackfests. So we'll see about getting another one out there and timing and all that. So.
And we are definitely up for that, obviously.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah. It's just a matter of when, I would think.
Yeah, I think on that note, so if anyone out there wants to host a Hackfest, they don't always have to involve everyone like Tom and myself and Jonathan. There's no reason that someone can't just host a local Hackfest, and then announce it on the mailing list. We can have infinite Hackfests. Not everyone will show up at all the Hackfests, obviously, but if there's someone who's interested in just doing a local one, that's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. Totally. And I've started to see GNU Radio meetups. I think Denver is the Denver area with Mike Osman and a few of the guys out there have been holding some GNU Radio evening meetups for the past over the past few months. So that's great too. So we certainly encourage any excuse to get together and talk about this stuff. And Martin's right, we don't have to be there. Be great for us to know about it so we can help promote it and understand who's out there and doing stuff, but we certainly don't have to be there.
Okay. I think that's all the announcements and festivities coming up.
Yep.
So the other two items on the dev call are the working group updates. We do that every time for those who are tuning in for the first time. But we don't have all the working group leaders here. I'm not quite sure what to do about that. And the data files thing. So what exactly is the data files thing, Tom?
Well, I was just thinking of things that came up during the conference and wanted to get them down somewhere to keep them alive and out there. So the issue has come up in the past that there's a lot of people who want to work on SDR who don't have hardware, or their hardware isn't capable of getting the signals that they want, or the signals that they're interested in aren't available to them in their location. Plenty of different reasons why they can't get their own signal. So we have had this idea, and we do actually have a few data snapshots on the website, but there's been kind of a call for a larger number of data snapshots for various signals, varying quality, environmental effects, things like that, so people can study them properly and get real data to experiment with. So this brings up issues of storage, bandwidth, and the actual signals themselves. And this was brought up at the conference, and Ken Baker, who's a professor at CU Boulder, had mentioned that he's like, oh, we can probably help a lot with that. So it sounds like they've collected a lot of sample data files themselves that we might be able to get access to or redistribute somehow or something like that. So I just wanted to bring this up as just to keep it in mind. There's no real pressing need for it, but I think it would be a nice convenience, a nice service to the community for us to do this. Obviously, though, this also comes with a lot of caveats. Stuff like, we need to make sure that there's no privacy issues. That the signals that we're sharing, are publicly broadcast signals, or that there's, release information or something like that. This does get into a few issues that we might want to keep in mind. But certainly things like FM and there's plenty of broadcast signals out there that we have no problem dealing with. So anyways, I just wanted to keep that in the conversation to see where we could go and what we might want to do about this.
So are there any action items on that we need to deal with?
Yeah, I think the action, you get back in touch with Ken, and I've actually pinged him fairly recently to see what they have as far as signal availability and what we can do to get access to them and help distribute them, make the distribution possible, which might involve some more web programming, maybe more bandwidth issues, but I want to see what he has to say about it.
I think we should find an owner for this, somebody interested enough to pursue this and curate the content. We don't have a problem with storing it or providing the bandwidth or making it available over the web, but someone's going to have to organize it and respond to user requests and figure out how to do uploads and downloads and all that stuff.
Yeah. And honestly, that seems like a service that a university should be able to help with. I would hope, at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if all the content is hosted, by a university or whomever, we still need somebody in our project to champion this and to, be the place where people can go to, ask to get things done or to, figure all this out. Otherwise, it's just going to sit and languish.
Yeah. Yep.
So you mentioned that we have all the whereabouts to host this stuff. It's just that we're lacking volunteers at this point.
Essentially.
Yeah. But if there is a curator, and again, if it's university-based, we might actually benefit from their bandwidth and storage capabilities. So we'll see where it goes, especially like if we can get Ken to get interested in this, we might be able to benefit greatly from that. Instead of having to rehost it, we just point to it. But Jonathan's right. If it does come down to us, yeah, we can work on that.
Okay. Jonathan, do you want to say anything about upcoming releases? I'm sorry for putting you on the spot here.
Actually, if you refresh the outline, I just put that as an action item to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, I had planned to talk about it. So we have a 3751 planned here shortly. There's been an accumulation of semi-important and important bug fixes. We'll be probably tagging 3751 on Saturday, and then doing a release announcement and a new DVD ISO sometime early in the week. If there are any outstanding bug fixes that you guys want to get in, next couple of days are important to do that. Tom and I have already gone through the pull request queue and pushed everything that we have, so we're essentially done unless something else shows up before Saturday.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't think we have a handle on when a 376 is going to be released, though.
No.
Yeah, but we probably don't have that many things in the queue right now that need to be pushed out, right?
Yeah, there's nothing that's really driving that at this point. I can see it maybe by the end of the year, but there's nothing on there that's driving us to release it yet.
Okay. Let's talk about the working groups as far as we can. I think Sebastian is the only guy who can probably report.
Oh, Tim's here.
Yay. So, reports from GRCon. The working group session itself was kind of interesting. We got a lot of user feedback, and the discussion evolved around documentation, more or less, how to bring in documentation to GSD, or how to have user-created wiki pages that can link to a blog, so I can, jot down a note. I found some block that has a query behavior or a parameter that is not clearly defined in the document, like the doxygen, and then just put it there, and then at some point we can update the doxygen from those nodes. But this right now is just an idea, the main one that came out of that. And the another topic was the Qt part of GRC, which is now on the way with 2 new people helping, which is Andy and Steph. We split the work into the GUI part itself and the underlying flow graph model that handles all the dynamic variables and parameters and how things change if you change something. And we're seeing a lot of changes once that's done. But the GRC as it is right now will more or less keep features. I won't
Sebastian, can you shut off your video because your audio is coming in and out, and maybe we can get more bandwidth this way?
I'm on video.
It was just like a black screen. It was just your yeah. There you go.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, was any of it understandable?
Yeah, mostly. You just kind of kept fading out, and but it sounds much better now. I think you were just talking about the Qt port. You want to, and that you've got help on that, and that seems to be going well. Anything about our Cheetah replacement discussions?
Right. Yeah. So GLC, as other parts of GNU Radio, uses Cheetah as a templating system. But in GLC, it's not only used for actually templating the Python output, but it's also infused into the XML description of blogs that people write to add their blogs to GNU Radio. And replacing Cheetah is sort of something that has to happen at some point. The project's been inactive for quite a while now, and if we ever switch to Python 3, we will have an issue because they don't port it. So there is a need to replace Cheetah, and after discussions, we came up with Mako as an alternative. However, replacing the block XML as it is right now with just another template system is maybe not the best thing to do. So the goal here is to replace the XML itself and get an interface for blocks that is written in Python rather than XML with a mix of templating in it. There's nothing concrete on this yet. I have some code working, and the goal will be to have an automatic translation from the XML as it is right now to the new format. So this switch should hopefully happen with not a lot of pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to reiterate that point, that the idea is that if your block or you're using blocks written before that are in XML, that we're going to work really hard to make sure that those just get translated into this new format, so that there's no rush and maybe like never even a need for you to change from writing in the XML to this new style. But the new style should be a lot more flexible and efficient for us.
Right. And this whole thing will come together with the Qt GUI.
Yep.
Essentially a rewrite of the whole GOC. So this is, I think, all I have. There's been a couple of bug fixes. I have some branch that's going to allow to have message ports before stream ports in GOC created higher blocks, but that's something that I'll be pushing to master sometime when I've tested it.
Okay. All right. So, are we good then, Sebastian? Should we move on?
Yep.
Cool. Good. All right. Tim, you able to speak from your car?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about. Honestly, I've been ridiculously distracted since the conference, so hopefully in the next week I can send out a scheduled call and we can make some progress. I know there's been some code contributed, but I haven't made really any progress.
Okay.
So can you maybe give us a very brief rundown of what actually happened at the conference in your session?
Sure. So we talked about some of the different kind of existing models for stream and burst processing in GNU Radio, and then we talked through use cases and talked a little bit about where people have run into issues with those models as they tried to build applications. And so I guess we had some input, and we did. I think the thing we hadn't really encompassed was people have a need for events which occur that are not necessarily bounded. So if you've got kind of a a session that starts and keeps streaming until it ends. And this is something that's not, it's kind of we came up with the idea where you've got things you can process atomically and things that you can't. And so we kind of talked through and tried to formalize those models, and there's kind of a takeaway item to try to write these up on the wiki, and so that should be happening soon.
Okay,
Right.
thanks. So Phil and Doug aren't here. So I can give a quick rundown of what happened at the community working group session. It was pretty chaotic. I have to say, yeah, there was a lot of ideas floating around. So unfortunately, I haven't really been able to follow up on those. There's one thing that we want to try and do is we might need to rethink about how we interact with people. So right now, basically, it's the mailing list or nothing. And one suggestion that came up is that we try and focus on Stack Overflow again, trying to get some people that help answering questions there. So we're going to need some volunteers for that. So far, Samantha has volunteered to at least sort of point people back to the mailing list, so make sure that it doesn't starve or get stale. There was a couple of other ideas that never really made it very far, though, like working on a GNU Radio starter kit, like something that you could buy, and it's basically a RTL STR dongle or something like that. So this is all ideas that never really matured very far. So there's not really much I can mention here about that. Yeah, that's pretty much it from my end, though.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I'll just jump in real fast for the Volk stuff.
Okay.
I think just issues that we dealt with at the conference were the split off and release of Volk and how we want to do that. So Nathan is pursuing a couple of options to allow us to distribute Volk as its own separate project, but keep it as either a subtree or a submodule, and there's trade-offs to both those methods, so that when you download or you check out GNU Radio, you get the latest version of Volk with it. I think we've talked about this before on one of our calls, but the concern is if we break off Volk and Volk gets all these great new protokernels or kernels, and it gets a new version for that, GNU Radio has to wait until the next version, API release to update the version of Volk required, and that seems suboptimal from both sides. So we want to make sure that we keep Volk as part of GNU Radio, but also allow it to be distributed as its own separate library. So that was, I think, one of the big issues that we dealt with. Other issues are with the new Neon assembly. There were some hiccups in support for that, but I think we fixed most of those bugs. I think there might be still a couple outstanding issues for some strange, like ARM v6 processors or something. I don't know off the top of my head what that is. But the other thing that Nathan wanted to point out, and I'll just put it in our chat here, is this coverage table for Volk. If you go to that link, it'll show you a table of all of the current kernels and protokernels, protokernel space, so that you can see, does a protokernel for Neon exist for this, for this dot product, or the complex multiply, does it have a an AVX implementation, that type of stuff. So this will just help us keep track of, I think it's nice because it tells us what kernels are actually available, as well as just give an understanding of what we can expect out of Volk for a particular architecture, instruction set architecture. So hopefully we'll see a lot more of these reds turn to greens over time. So I think that's the update on Volk. There's not really been a huge update from the embedded side. I think Philip and I still need to kind of get together and finish what we wanted to start at the conference, which was a better web page interface for information on the embedded systems. Probably update what we're releasing, what we're supporting, those types of issues. But we haven't really gotten together on that. He and I have been, I think, kind of busy in either he's busy or I'm busy, it seems like, since the conference. And then the coprocessor working group, I don't know, maybe Jonathan would want to step in and say something quickly about this, but we had a good call early I think it was Monday of this week, a good call trying to discuss the actual implementations of the issues that were raised at the conference, and Doug has already created issue tracker items to be addressed, so I think we've got a pretty good handle on that. But Jonathan, if you want to say more.
Yeah, we started on a branch to implement several of the feature called out in the items that were added to the tracker. So right now, we have the idea that block writers can signal to the runtime that they need to have special memory handling, and then the runtime will record that information. Then we're going to be, and Michael Dickens is working on this part, adding specialized buffers for dealing with the singly and doubly mapped cases where the blocks own their own memory. So that work is finally done. We're looking toward the end of this month for a first spin on what we talked about during the call, and that should happen without a problem, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Hey Tom, just to roll back to one of the things you mentioned, is the discussion regarding breaking bulk out. Is that happening as part of the bulk working group, or are those discussions happening offline?
It's having part of the Volk working group. Yeah, we had that as a open discussion during the Volk working group session at the conference.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I think that probably wraps up our working group reports.
And that's all the points on the agenda as well. So unless anyone has anything they want to bring up. Doesn't look like it. Okay, next call will be 20th of November at the usual time, Tim. Yeah, I'll put up a wiki page for that, so if anyone wants to discuss stuff, put it on the wiki page. Working groups usually have their own calls, which are announced on the mailing list. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Okay, bye-bye everyone. See you in a month.
Thanks.
Yeah.